Okay, let's get the formalities out of the way. Audience, this is Barry Lyndon. Barry Lyndon, this is the audience. Barry Lyndon comes from Italian indie perfumer Maria Candida Gentile. This was released in 2010. So for those of you who may not know, the name of this perfume is the name of a movie that came out in the 70s directed by Stanley Kubrick called Barry Lyndon. Now, I'm going to admit straight up that I have not actually watched the movie in its entirety. I've seen scenes of it, and it's more because I was interested in the inspiration for this perfume and how that actually related to the movies. Now, if you read even a little bit about Barry Lyndon, obviously it's directed by Stanley Kubrick, who's considered a very great director. Barry Lyndon is kind of famous for the fact that it's beautifully shot. The cinematography is beautiful, and it was entirely, well, at least mostly, lit with natural light or candlelight. So apparently no big studio lights were used. How does this relate to a perfume? I'm not entirely sure. What I do know that they have in common is that they're both pretty beautiful, one to look at and one to smell. So let's have a sniff of Barry Lyndon. Now, I want to point out as well, this has one of those beautiful misty sprays like that you can kind of control, but it's really a diffusive spray, and you get quite a good coverage on your skin, which is not something that gets talked about enough, especially when you're looking at reviews. And I do a lot of reviews. I'm going off on a tangent here, but I do a lot of reviews with sample sprays. And I did realize, especially when I was testing this, how a perfume sprays onto your skin can actually have some effect on how you perceive it and test it. Hopefully, with experience, that kind of doesn't matter so much. But what I will say is that Barry Lyndon, when you spray, covers a good part of the skin. And I think on some level, it plays into how this performs. And what I will say, I'm going to talk about the performance before I talk about the smell. I'm going to do things a bit in reverse here. This lasts on I can smell it on my skin for at least 6-7 hours, but it is from start to finish on me, the way I smell it, quite a soft perfume, soft in projection, soft in sillage. But the reason I point it out straight away is that some perfumes should not be powerhouses, should not be projection monsters, should not fill rooms. I think it would be like really incongruous to smell this particular smell, this scent profile, and be able to smell it from 10 feet away. It just does not compute in my mind. This is, now we'll get into the smell. This is, to me, a kind of aromatic, floral, suede leather, soft, supple leather. And it kind of develops and progresses in that way for me. When you first spray it on, there is this kind of what I describe as anisic herbal accord. There's green. I honestly could not pick out individual notes or ingredients here, other than there's a herbal greenness. There's this grassy, aromatic accord in there as well. But it is quickly it is quickly overtaken by what I find is the dominant accord for this perfume. And in the heart, we have this kind of lovely, delicate floral. And when I first sprayed it, before I looked at what the specific note pyramid was, the first thing that popped into my mind is years ago, I used to be quite the luxe young man and take bubble baths. And I had this really, I will never remember what the name or the brand is, but I had this honeysuckle scented bubble bath. Now, don't ask me why after 15, 20 years since I smelled that as soon as I smelled this perfume, I was reminded of that bubble bath. I hadn't thought about it for that long, but to me, it smelled like that particular scent profile. How close that was to real honeysuckle, I don't know, because I've never actually really smelled any honeysuckle in the wild. But interestingly, one of the listed notes here is heather, which is like a kind of, flowers, a type of flower that grows out in the fields. Heather and arnica. And supposedly, heather has some similarities to honeysuckle, which I found very interesting. So I am interested in smelling the actual ingredient, if indeed it does exist. Arnica is supposed to have a grassy, more of a grassy green smell, so that might explain some of the things I'm smelling. But what you need to know is that these florals, if I want to liken it to a painting, if everything is kind of composed in pastels here. So think of olfactory notes as pastel colours on a canvas instead of bold primary colours laid on thick. Everything is delicate, subtle, and pastel-like. Eventually, it gets into this, you almost don't notice the transition between the florals, and then all of a sudden you smell this, and there is this kind of soft, clean, I want to say suede instead of leather. There is this softness about it. And at this point is when I want to stress that there's no similarities between it. But I think if you are someone that likes a perfume, say like Kier d'Ange from Hermes, that I couldn't imagine you not liking this particular perfume, especially when it goes into that leather. And something about the base also reminded me of, this kind of suede and iris combination that you might find in Parfum d'Empires, Kier Ottoman as well, but just toned down, dialed back a little bit. So there is more of a softness about it. It is just a beautiful, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a beautiful dappled light of a perfume, and everything is delicate, but it's present. And also, I want to say, I was thinking about how maybe in the past I've spoken a lot about how wearing a perfume might make me feel or change my mood. Some perfumes are actual moods or vibes. This perfume is kind of different. And maybe it's because it's kind of one of my newer bottles, and I want to maybe get to know it properly. I've worn it several times now, so as I always do before I attempt a review. I feel like I'm still admiring this perfume when I wear it, like I'm looking at a beautiful painting in a gallery. So I love everything about it, everything I'm smelling, but it doesn't quite feel like it belongs to me yet. it's a very strange kind of abstract thing I'm trying to explain. I enjoy wearing it. I enjoy wearing it. It just, when I do wear it, it doesn't, I feel like I'm sort of detached from myself and just admiring how I'm smelling. And I'm making no sense at all because I'm a little bit crazy. But this is the beauty of Barry Lyndon, possibly inspired by the beauty of a film set in the 70s. But whatever Maria Candida Gentili did with this inspiration and what she put together here is altogether beautiful simplicity and complexity at the same time, without making you think too hard about it. And of course, I am thinking too hard about it. I'm just going to enjoy Maria Candida Gentili's Barry Lyndon. I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.